Wild Health is about optimizing you. We use genomics, blood work, biometrics, microbiome assessment, many other tests, and a conversation with you to come up with a full health optimization plan. What's the perfect diet, exercise, and supplement plan for you and only you? The Wild Health Podcast is about optimizing all of us. Here we cover the cutting-edge science that gives you the base to be able to apply the personalized plan we give you as a patient. To sign up as a patient, go to wildhealth.com. Or if you're a physician or health coach and you want to learn how to do this for your patients, we're happy to help as well. Wildhealth.com for all the information on becoming a patient or working with us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Wild Health Podcast. We're a genetics-based precision medicine company that's exploring all the big questions around holistic health, wellness, and performance optimization. If you're tired of the traditional healthcare system and want to sign up as a member with us, head over to wildhealth.com. And if you're someone who's looking for a high-touch, all-inclusive concierge medical experience specifically designed for executives and high performers, check out our premium program at wildhealth.com/premium. Now let's get into it. Hey, buddy.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. I'm throwing you a curveball today.
Super.
I know you love those.
Love that.
Nothing says happy like a surprise on a podcast.
Yeah, right.
Our lovely marketing team informed me that they wanted us to chat about how the corporate food industry is ruining our health. And I thought, well, that sounds kind of clickbaity, but it kind of is once I dug into it. And I thought, what would be kind of fun if I was going to throw you a curveball is instead of asking you a bunch of questions, let's flip the script. And you're now, I've now made you host.
Okay.
And,
all right.
And you, whatever questions you have about the corporate food industry, I'm all ears, and I'll do my best to answer.
Do you know the couple times we've made me host, we've ended up delaying those podcasts for editing purposes, right? Like,
yeah, well, the best thing is when once we exceed the Nyquist limit for F-bombs, the podcast is immediately known to be a Carl guest podcast.
Yeah,
so
right.
There's no surprises here. Let's see how we. I don't know. This topic may be PG. I think we can keep it PG.
No, it's all right. Well, it looks like a topic that we're gonna probably upset a couple people, or somebody's going to come after me, but that's okay. So
yeah, I mean, we have a way of I don't know if it's the soybean industry or the chocolate industry. Like we're definitely making some people angry.
We had a Monsanto rant for a little bit, right? Didn't we have that?
Yeah. I was a little worried about whether I needed to install a security system or a different one at home.
Yeah, they probably can't find me. That's what's nice about me. Let's talk about I guess corporate versus local food sources, and how do we do that? Like, I don't think anybody's going this ultra processed corporate food sources. I don't know. Like, how do we transition from local food sources to corporate control? From local food sources to corporate controlled production, and how does that contribute to our public health crisis then that we're seeing today?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably a little bit of just general background is worthwhile. So in the early 20th century, food was still primarily produced on a local or regional level. Right, so you got your food locally, and most people's diets at the time consisted of largely fresh fruits and vegetables, grains, locally sourced meats. After World War II, though, there was a shift as technology advanced. Food production became more industrialized, and large corporations started to dominate the market.
What do you think the big shift there was? I have theories on that, but I feel like there's probably people that geek out about this historically, but what do you think the big shift was there?
I think the big shift was the development of processed foods in my mind, and the reason why these were so popular initially is like really long shelf lives in comparison to locally sourced fresh foods, and they were really convenient. Right. So, processed foods were a pretty cool development at the time, but they ultimately became like increasingly loaded with sugars and unhealthy fats and lots of sodium. And, in the 70s and the 80s, this stuff just got even worse as like unhealthy eating was further exacerbated by aggressive marketing campaigns. Right. And then you get fast food chains and soft drinks using, enticing advertising to promote these products that are really nutritionally devoid of value, but are really high in calorie, sugar, and fat.
Yeah. And you think that marketing, you feel like the marketing is mostly because of the focus on children, and then that we're seeing the downstream effects of that because those kids are now, baby boomers, I guess?
Yeah, marketing plays a huge role in our food choices, and children are particularly susceptible to advertising campaigns. So, you think about all of the food companies that have used characters and toys and other promotional materials to market high sugar, high fat foods to kids, right? Everything from Toucan Sam to,
Ronald.
Ronald McDonald, the Happy Meal, right? It's you take a step back and look at the marketing campaigns around fast food and sugar cereals and that kind of stuff, and it's like turning on Saturday morning cartoons. It's clearly marketed towards kids because you create these customers early, and they're going to be customers for life. So you've basically corporations are optimized for efficiency and profit. They're not optimized for nutritional quality. So, much in the same way that we talk about, big medicine or big pharma or big tobacco, big food has a lot of the same driving incentives. And, if you are going to thrive as a food corporation, you're going to sell a lot of food. It doesn't matter if you're selling a lot of high quality food. And in fact, it's a lot more profitable to sell lower quality, less nutritionally dense foods.
And this kind of like this came onto my radar when I was in medical school, and I did an away rotation in Detroit, in the ER, one of the ERs in Detroit at Henry Ford, and the concept of a food desert kind of like came onto my radar and became acutely aware of it. And this is Detroit, circa 2004, 2005 kind of. So it's a little different now, but can you maybe talk about what a food desert is and how corporate food, industries kind of contribute to this?
Yeah. Well, if you're Manhattanite, like my brother, every place that isn't New York City is a food desert. Yeah. But or even some places in New York City might be food deserts, according to him. But what is actually a food desert? A food desert's an area and typically low income region where access to affordable, healthy food options is limited or just non-existent. And why do these food deserts exist? Big retailers find it significantly more profitable to set up stores in areas with higher income residents because they're going to frequent their stores and they're going to purchase their products. And that leaves low income areas with more convenience stores, more fast food options, as opposed to more grocery stores and more fresh produce. So another way that the system really, it trickles down and makes it even more challenging for folks in a low income demographic to make healthy food choices and to eat healthy. And if you look not just in the United States, but internationally, the epidemic of obesity and prediabetes and diabetes and metabolic syndrome is significantly more prevalent in low-income populations. And I think the existence of food deserts definitely plays a big role there.
So those type of, in food deserts, the type of food that are available are thought to be kind of like, even in those places and from like kind of corporate food production, it's thought that those foods are more addictive. Like that's like a narrative that's out there. How much truth is there into that? And what role does that kind of play in the current situation we're in, I guess, as far as like our obesity and diabetes?
Yeah, I mean, there is definitely evidence that certain foods can stimulate the dopamine pathways in a way that's similar to illicit drugs, right? So, foods that are high in sugar, fat, and salt create this kind of feedback loop that makes people want even more of them. And it's, this is like blatantly out there in advertising, right? And it's almost insulting how just unabashedly proud the food manufacturers are of this, right? Like there are like potato chip campaigns that are like, bet you can't just have one, right? Like, it's these foods are, there are food scientists who are literally working on making something as addictive as possible.
I've never thought of that marketing campaign as the way you just sort of played it. Is like, it's so hilarious. It's like, we'll give you the first hit for free. Why don't we just say that?
Exactly. Here, try some of these chips. And there's a reason why that's the case, right? I mean, these are really high caloric foods, and presumably at some evolutionary level, if we were to stumble across something really high in fat or really high in sugar or really high in salt, that might confer a survival benefit for us, right? It's a lot of good calories at a time of food scarcity. The reality is, can you think of a food that occurs naturally, like a whole food, that is high in sugar, fat, and salt?
I think of fat.
The answer is no, because that doesn't occur in nature.
Yeah, right.
And I think what it's doing is just, speaking to our evolutionary programming in a way that's like underneath our conscious awareness, and our bodies just want more of it. It just feels good, and we just want more of it. And that's why, a maple bacon donut is, not a naturally occurring food, but man, if you take a bite, you may want to have another one afterwards.
Yeah, the
because
maple
it's really
bacon donut tree doesn't exist.
No, sadly.
Although it would be rad.
I'd plant some of those, but no, it's really an artificial combination of foods, and we know that there's very little nutritional value, right? It's that maple bacon donut is getting stored as fat, and probably some atherosclerotic plaque and some fat in your liver, right? I mean, it's not being utilized to like feed your muscles and provide quality nutrients to your brain, right? So I think that there's definitely some truth to the fact that these foods are designed to be addictive, and that there is an overlap in the addiction pathways and the reward pathways that's probably very real.
And so I think, like, obviously the things we're talking about is out there in popular media. And so what I've seen happen is that there's like these processed foods now that have these kind of claims of being health food, right? And they have these kind of misleading claims. But how does this sort of complicate consumers' like thought processes and efforts to make these healthier choices? And what sort of are there regulations around that? There's one thing I also think about, like how can you say that? That is just not true. Like if I said that as a doctor, I'd probably lose my license. Like if I, take bad, have bad advice and claim it as good, like that's a bad thing in my profession.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. The short answer is that current regulations are often inadequate. There are some places where there's been some success with policies and regulations around marketing of foods, and we could talk about those. But some processed foods come with pretty misleading health claims. Like they'll say all natural, or they'll say low fat, which gives the impression that they're healthy, but they can be super high in high fructose corn syrup, or in additives, or all natural does not necessarily mean healthy. So being able to, one of the places we really see this happening too is like the protein marketing. And what foods don't say, 5 grams of protein, and you're like, okay, I mean, 5 grams of protein is not very much. And then you look at the nutritional value, and there's also, 8 grams or 12 grams of fat and like 15 grams of sugar, right?
Yep.
But they don't have to market that. They just have to put 5 grams of protein on the front, and they're meeting regulations. So, that's an area where we really could improve. And I can go ahead and just give you some examples.
Yeah.
So like Chile put in some pretty stringent policies against unhealthy foods, including warning labels. So they had warning labels on foods that are high in sugar, sodium, saturated fat, and calories. They banned the use of cartoon characters on products like that.
Rad.
So like,
I did not know that.
Sorry, Tony the Tiger, but you're not allowed in Chile.
I'm cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs.
It hasn't been going on for that long, but like early results look like there's a drop in purchases of these foods. So, it's a suggestion that policies like this can be effective. And, along with regulatory policies, there's also like taxing unhealthy foods.
Yeah.
And this has been suggested as an approach, right? Like there's countries that have a soda tax. And does it work? Does it not work? It's pretty controversial. The upside is, if you tax an unhealthy food, much in the same way that there's like tobacco taxes in much of the United States now, you're going to potentially decrease the consumption of those foods and generate some revenue that could be used for like a public health program or something positive. So that all sounds great, but the cons are, like with many of these sweeping policies, there's a potential for these taxes to disproportionately affect low-income families and individuals, right? You're living in a food desert, your food options are limited, and now you need to not only buy unhealthy foods, but you need to pay a tax on the foods that you're buying that are unhealthy. I think Hungary and Mexico have implemented taxes like these. I know Mexico has implemented a soda tax, and it does look like there's some promising results coming out of it. But I think for folks who are concerned about it, I think there's definitely reason to be concerned, because it would be a real shame to turn around and disproportionately punish low-income families who don't have healthier food choices by taxing the foods that are available to them.
So we could we improve labeling then and help to help people make healthier choices? Does that work? For people?
Yeah, I think it does. I think it again, has the potential to disproportionately benefit folks with higher educational levels and higher literacy levels. So certainly, like, it's not a one size fits all solution. Improved food labeling could definitely help consumers make healthier choices if you provided like clear, concise information about the nutritional content of a given product. I know in the UK they use this traffic light system. which is pretty cool. So like, I think they're doing it with fat, although you could probably do it with, sugar or just overall calories.
Yeah.
And it's a color coding system. So it's like red, amber, and green. And if it's a red food, it's got a high level of fat in the UK. If it's a green, it's a lower level of fat. And, it seems like, especially given what has happened I grew up in the low fat era where if something was low fat, it was healthy, right?
Yeah.
And I think just taking some of the mystery out of, or even taking some of those like loopholes out for the manufacturers so that it's less of a red, amber, green for fat, but it's a red, amber, green that is, like reviewed by a regulatory agency as this is a nutritionally dense food is green, right? A very nutritionally scant food is red, and in the middle is amber, right? And don't expect the average consumer to be able to go, well, it's red for fat, but it's green for sugar, and it's, amber for calories. So what do I do with that? That's just overly complicated. And I think having just an overall nutritional density value would be a cool way to go. I don't know of any place that's currently doing that.
Yeah, I'm interested in maybe know the answer to this, but if there's any evidence behind, like, certain states have gone to reporting calories with fast food, like you report that on the side, and you can juxtapose, like the bowl versus the wrap, and you can look at the difference, and it's the same thing, but all that's different is the tortilla shell. They're not, they're looking at calorie difference, but they're not looking at like nutritional density. I don't know, but like I just don't know if there's any evidence for that changing people's behavior.
It's a great question. I don't know the answer to that. It's probably like a Google search or a Chat GPT search away, honestly, to see if there's been outcomes data from states that have mandated calorie counts on menus, and seeing if that's influenced. I mean, what do we really want to know? We want to see if it's influenced rates of obesity and metabolic syndrome in the population, but probably too early to really see that anyway. I think as a surrogate earlier marker, you could look at sort of like, has the purchasing options changed, and are people like trending towards the lower calorie options, as opposed to before those regulations were implemented? I mean, I don't want to demonize the whole situation. Like, clearly there's a lot of really well-intended folks who are trying to just, slowly stop this decline into, really cheap, really nutritionally terrible foods. And, I don't even remember how long this was ago, but like, remember when trans fats were then banned, right? All of a sudden, then they weren't for all the time before that. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of really well-motivated organizations and human beings who are trying to improve the quality of the foods that we're eating. But I do think that, just to give our marketing team I appreciate you. Yes, the deeper I dove into this, the more corporate food started looking like corporate tobacco and corporate alcohol. It's just about maximizing profits, and there's the driving force in the stuff that's sitting on shelves in boxes at the grocery store. It's really not about helping us improve our health and live good quality health span, great lives. It's about selling more boxes of Frosted Flakes.
Have you ever watched the movie WALL-E?
Yeah.
Yeah, where they're in just like outer space, and everybody's, and they're just like, your meal's in a cup, and you're just slurping it, and they're just like, they've lost all bone density, and like they're just
they're all like on these little like flotation sleds, just going around with a screen right in front of their face, and they can't even like see the person next to them or talk to anybody.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's a horrifying vision, but not that far off from where we're heading.
Right. Instead of, it makes me feel like, like where they have like they choose your clothes for you and your cup color. Try red. It's the new blue. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Definitely
thanks
a
for
favorite,
talking to me
though.
about this.
It was. I've definitely seen Wall-E at least 3 times with the kids, and that's one that's got just as much in it for the grown-ups. It's a great movie
for sure.
Yeah.
All right,
Awesome.
man.
Yeah. Well, so sorry for the downer, but you know,
No.
you ever since you busted my bubble with chocolate, I feel like I want to bring all these like sad, health crises to you, Carl. So thanks for listening.
All right, I'm gonna bring a pick me up next time.
Okay. Or maybe just like a piece of broccoli or an avocado.
Oh, I was thinking of a mental pick me up, but sure, that's fine. Yeah, we can do that.
Don't tell me an avocado is not a mental pick me up.
I mean, it is for me, but not while you're in Portland and I'm in Colorado. I don't know how that's gonna work. Like,
That's true. All right, we'll think of
we'll have to
something
think
more
about
fun.
that. Yeah.
All right, buddy. Thanks, Matt.
Talk to you soon.
Thanks so much for listening to the Wild Health Podcast. If you're a Wild Health patient, you might not know, but you have access to our referral program. This gets your friends and family 25% off Wild Health services. Just head to Clarity, and in the top right corner, you'll see Refer a Friend. Click there, and you'll be brought to a page with your referral code. Happy sharing.